Welcome to the Wisconsin Heights School District Facility Use Meeting. My name is Michelle McGrath and I'm the District Administrator for Heights.
And I'm Melissa Winters. I'm the Athletic Director and Activities Director for the district.
We are going to jump right into the information. So just a little bit, ultimately, we have had lots of policies prior in place here in the district around facility use. And ultimately, by the end of this video, we want you to know that we're all about creating connections with our communities, bringing our community members in and not putting up barriers. So we're going to do our best to make this video informational, but also let you know that at any time, feel free to come in and ask us questions and find out more about the things that we're talking about tonight. So we've always had a fee structure that's going to be enforced, and we'll talk more about that coming up. Liability, protocols, application, all of those things have always been in place. It's just a matter of how we're going to implement them in the future. But some of the changes that you're going to see, which we'll talk about individually tonight, would be the fee structure and what organizations fall in that fee structure, the access to the buildings, how the hours are going to be changing, the liability insurance verification and the steps you need to provide that for the district, going from keys to FABs for our district, as well as some new forms, some new exemptions, and some safety protocols that we want to make sure we have in place.
Okay, so to start with the logistics piece, many of you have seen this screen before. This is how you how you register to be able to request facilities. That's still in effect. We do have a paper application as well, though, that if you're a first-time person, you should be using. And that's going to tell you which group you're in, your group classification. And so this is for, Wisconsin Heights youth sports and club organizations are in group 1, and they are going to fall into no charge for most things that they would use the facilities for. Group 2 is other organizations that are connected to the Wisconsin Heights School District, students and groups that benefit and are accessible to all members of our Wisconsin Heights surrounding communities. And then group 3 is all other groups. And once you get a group number that you're in, that can determine that fee structure that has been in place for a while, but that we are making sure that we're going to implement with some fidelity and consistency now. So you would still use this to register and pick the dates that worked for you, things like that. Nothing about that piece will change. Once you've done the application, however, you can also do the exemption, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit.
I will say that if you go to our website under facilities, you will find a landing page that has links to all of these forms that we're talking about this evening, as well as a link to this request system.
Okay, so when you're doing this, some things to remember. You will need to submit your liability insurance, and that is for $1 million of liability insurance for your group. That you can either upload it, but that can get a little clunky. So you can also email a copy of that to myself or to Gwen Padden-Lechton, who is one of our administrative assistants. And the order of preference for your space usage when you're in there requesting, school events, of course, are at the forefront and they take precedence. Next, we go into those youth events. That would be kind of that group 1 would come next in that order of precedence. Next, we get to the community events, which would be all of those group 2 kind of folks, followed by other community groups, and then used by groups from outside of the community who just want to use our space. Those are kind of prioritized down a little lower. And then we'll get into those keys and those key fobs. So I know a lot of people have master keys or keys to different areas in the building. We are transitioning from that to a situation where we will have key fobs for everyone to be able to get in. If you're a regular user, you'll get a key fob that's issued to you. And during times when you are have requested and been approved to use the facility, those key fobs will work for you during those times. Now, if that key fob will work for you during that time. If you're just using the building periodically, you'd be checking out one of those key fobs from the main office. We're also going to be transitioning our gyms from keys to key fobs so that those areas will be accessible to you with your fob. If you lose your key fob, it's a matter of school security, and it's just safer than a key because we can deactivate that key fob and get you a new one. And
I think
about it. Yeah.
one of the things to remember about the key fobs, so currently our building is actually open to the public from the time school concludes at 3:30 until 9 o'clock in the evening. So the reason for the key fobs is that starting January 1st, our buildings will only be open for those 20 minutes before school starts, and then they will remain locked for the rest of the day and into the evening. So you will need a key fob to actually access the building if your group is using it. Now granted, if we're having a basketball game or there's an event here, the doors will be open and it will be business as usual as you've experienced it, but it's in those situations where there's not an activity happening that evening that you'll need that fob to access the building. So facility fee exemptions. So right now, we have a lot of collaborations with community partners that you may have had a long history of not paying any sort of fee to use our building. We definitely want to still have an opportunity for you to continue that relationship. So there also is a form for facility exemption. And so what that means is that if you feel that your group should not have to pay a fee to use whether it's a classroom or a gym, you can fill out that form. That goes to the school board, and then they will make the determination if you are one of the organizations that will fall into that category, and then will be subject to not having to pay a fee. So self-explanatory, but that's one way to continue to have conversations on how to bring our community in as we have in the past.
Starting January 1st, we'll also be dealing with the equipment rental because some groups who use our facilities do want to use pieces of equipment along with that. And while we want you to be able to use that equipment, we're responsible for maintaining that equipment for our athletic teams and also for the regular service of that equipment. And with more use comes more depreciation of that equipment. So that's why we've had to start doing a fee schedule for that equipment to make sure that it's maintained properly for our athletes and our teams who use it here. So that would apply to our volleyball nets, our soccer nets, our softball, and our baseball machines, just because those are some of those pieces of equipment that just need regular maintenance to keep them serviceable. And even if you are in a no-pay status for using the building, these are still applicable. You still need to pay the rental fees if you want to use equipment along with that. And if you do damage a piece of equipment while you're using it here in the facility, that you would incur the cost to make sure that it's repaired properly.
All right, safety. So our district has gone through a change in our safety protocols, and we are doing lots of improvements to keep our building safe. So one of the things that we're going to encourage, and Melissa will share soon a checklist as to what you'll need to do, but ultimately making sure that when you come and use our building, you know who are the folks that are going to be responsible for calling 911. Do you know where our AED machines are? Do you know where the tornado shelters are? All those different things. You'll be given a map as well. We're getting a digital map made of our buildings that show where all those things are. So you'll have access to that as well. And like I said, Melissa will share our checklist as well. So
Okay, here is that facility use checklist, and it's also available under the facility use part of our website. And a lot of this, you're going to look at it and say, well, that makes sense, right? So a lot of cleaning up after yourself, and don't prop doors, right? And we don't want to use bar doors open or use those Allen wrenches to keep doors open. Discussing with your group who's the lead responder in an emergency, where the AEDs are, where emergency personnel will come. And that's important that you know ahead of time, just in case something happens, that everyone can be as safe as possible. There's also parts of this, if you choose not to have custodial staff for a larger event, that's fine. But the steps you need to take to make sure that the building is returned to a clean facility when you leave it. And also making sure that if there are any damages when you arrive, that you let me know so that you aren't held responsible for that as a group.
Okay, consequences for disregarding some of those regulations. So ultimately, we hope that we don't run into this problem, but if we do find out that ultimately that some of the things that our expectations haven't been followed, like propping doors or you've left a mess, that we'll have a conversation first. It'll be a verbal warning, and then ultimately, if it were to happen again, it would be restricted use of our facility.
And basically, we have an annual check-in here, but mostly we just want to let you know that it's going to be, this is a continuing conversation. And our school board is committed to consistently enforcing policies, and we're going to go with this for a while. And if things change, if we realize that changes need to happen, then we'll be putting out more information and keeping this conversation going with our community.
And with that, if you have any questions, like I said before, please feel free to reach out to Melissa or I, and we look forward to seeing you in our buildings and being a part of our school community.